Hi, everybody. This is the Apps and Cool Tools call number 12. And I wanted to make a small announcement at the top of the meeting that Ted Lawless from Brown has joined as the co lead of this VIVO Apps and Tools working group. And I'm very excited to have all his help. And he will also be helping me lead the hackathon on March 18th. So, Ted, you want to say hi to everybody?
Hi, everybody.
That's great, Ted. This is John at Cornell. I'm really delighted you're willing to do that. It's very helpful.
Well, my pleasure. It's good to work with Chris and to keep up with all the cool things people are doing.
So, without further ado, I'm going to turn over presenter to Mike Conlon from the University of Florida, and he's going to give us a demonstration of some of the fantastic Python tools that he's been creating. And let me see here, make presenter. There we go. All right.
Okay, so thanks, Chris. Yeah, over the last several years, we've been doing a number of different things to try to create some value out of the data that we put in Vivo. And so, as we thought about that, um, Chris has been kind of egging me on to show some of the things that we've created. And to do that, he gently nudged me into GitHub, and then he gently nudged me into creating a website for the tools that we've been creating, and then gently nudged me into Twitter Bootstrap. And so I want to show the website, and then we'll navigate over into the Biosketch area and take a look at that. So there's a website, and it's at GitHub. So it's hosted by GitHub, and it's called Some Vivo Things. And it's just a personal site of mine to show work that we've been doing in Florida. It's mostly software that I've written that helps us get data into our Vivo, that allows us to produce information from Vivo. And then I have a little blog where I'll talk about some things that I think are of interest to the Vivo community, or at least of interest to me. Um, and so if you head into the data in section, you'll see just various things that we've done that that help us manage data in Vivo, and all of these things are available as downloads from a corresponding GitHub repository. So, for example, we noticed that we had a lot of links in our Vivo, and our links could be broken. Like any large website that has a lot of links out, you're going to end up with broken links. And so we wrote a link checker, and the link checker just makes a Sparkle query into Vivo, finds all the web pages in Vivo, tests every single link in Vivo. When we run it on our Vivo, there's about 17,000 links, mostly to course catalog entries and to PubMed Central URLs of papers, and then to a bunch of private sites that the faculty put in there. But we don't like getting 404s from our Vivo, so we can run the link checker and find all the things that are broken. So you can just take a look at that when you get a chance. But we're a little more interested, I guess, today in some things that come out of Vivo. We've been experimenting with some different technologies. One of the things that we've done is created some new Biosketch software, but you'll also see reports that we made in RTF and the triple inspector, which we talked about last time, and making RSS feeds from Vivo. And then we're starting to build up a little library of useful Sparkle queries. So if you go in there, you'll just see Sparkle queries that we've found useful to count or report on various things, things that people have asked us about. And so if you can take a look at any one of these and just get the Sparkle and run it yourself in your own Vivo. this one in particular, Find the 2013 UF Papers in Top 10 Journals, kind of wrote a little blog story about this, because what happened was we had a request from our senior vice president to find papers in top journals that could be nominated for a clinical research prize. And as a result of the query that you just saw, one paper from the University of Florida was nominated and won an award as the #5 most impactful paper in the United States in clinical research in 2013. University of Florida had never competed in that before, and we really did not know how to find the papers before we had VIVO. So a little Sparkle query can go a long way. The investigator who is going to get that prize in March will then be testifying in front of Congress regarding the importance of clinical research in the United States. But I guess today we're back on the BioSketch. So let me go back there for a sec. So so can you make a BioSketch from VIVO? Well, some of us have been around the project for a while, and we know this has sort of been a kind of holy grail project. It seems that if you put a whole bunch of this data into VIVO, you should be able to do something to get it out in a BioSketch format. During the NIH project, we had a mini grant out to a group from the University of Pittsburgh who created a BioSketch, but it had some issues, particularly around performance, and we thought maybe a different approach might be warranted. And so if we go into the GitHub area for the BioSketch, you'll see the software is posted. You'll see that we have an example of a BioSketch. I'll pull that up, and that's pretty much it. It's a single Python file, and what it does is it takes a URI, a person's URI, makes their BioSketch, and we'll talk a little bit about how it decides what to put on the BioSketch, and then and outputs the BioSketch as an RTF file. And we thought RTF was very important because BioSketches are never perfect, and the grant specialists obsess about the BioSketches at a level of detail that's hard to imagine. And so they needed to have a format that could be editable. So a PDF just was not going to be the appropriate output format for a BioSketch. And all the grant specialists work in Word, so having an RTF file was perfect for them. And you'll see that we still have a number of things to do on the BioSketch. And the first one, review every detail with grant specialists. We have a large number of grant specialists at UF. They are all OCD by trade, and they really fuss over these things. And so we're very interested in getting their opinion about where the commas belong and whether there should be a space after a particular thing on the BioSketch, and just really fussing with those kinds of details. But we've had preliminary conversations about the VIVO BioSketch generator, and I think they're extremely excited for a number of reasons. So let's see if we can take a look. Okay. So if you download the repo, you'll get these files, and you see what a BioSketch looks like. Here's a BioSketch, and this is mine, made by VIVO. And so this is output from the program that we're going to take a look at in a minute. And like any kind of input-output process, the output's only going to be as good as the input. So I guess all this information had to be in VIVO for it to come spitting out. You'll see the general layout and the format of this page is we think just about pixel perfect. So the grant specialists have gone over that, and they like it pretty much in terms of like line distance and line width and all of the things that they would fuss about, because you just can't put one of these things in a grant application and have anyone look at it and have any kind of reaction other than that's a perfect BioSketch. It's the the only reaction they can have. And so this is the information about me that's in VIVO. The personal statement is typically edited for the proposal that's being submitted. Here, I've just taken the overview from the VIVO profile and put it in here. So most biosketches are going to be hand edited after after the automated production step, in order to get the personal statement to be appropriate for the proposal being submitted. The positions and honors are coming straight out of VIVO. This is just the start date and the end date, and they're in order, as you see, of start date, and they stretch back as long as you've got positions in VIVO. Peer-reviewed publications, the software just grabs the most recent 25 publications. It could do anything else. You'll see the code. It's very, very simple. You could change that if you like something else. But here it's just taking the publications in reverse date order, the first 25 academic articles that it finds. And so the other thing it's doing, you see, is putting the DOI and the PMID and the PMCID on here, which is rather tedious for most investigators, and so that's a big savings for them. So there's a bunch of publications, and then there's a bunch of research support. And I really like the research support because the instructions from the NIH are very specific about what you're supposed to do, and very few investigators actually do it the way the NIH has told them to do. And so this software actually produces research support that is compliant with the instructions, and that's a good thing. So they ask for research support that ended within the last 4 years. And so we have start dates and we have end dates, and then we go back in time on the end dates, and then we order them by those end dates. And you see end dates in the future for current awards in place, and then you see previous awards. So that's an NIH Biosketch. That's what it's supposed to look like. All this data came out of VIVO verbatim, and this particular Biosketch, while it is at RTF, you'll have to trust me that this was not edited in any way. Okay, so let's put that over here and go take a look at the Python program. So the Python program here is also rather straightforward, and I think this should be a very encouraging message. I think that these kinds of things may not be as difficult as we thought. And for a Biosketch, I probably waited for 4 years for somebody to write a Biosketch before I decided to do it myself. And when I went to do it myself, it took me about a day and a half to get it exactly the way I wanted. And this code is what, 300 lines, I think. Get that taskbar out of there. I could probably see it better, but that's the kind of guy I am. I don't know how to do that. Okay, so yeah, if we scroll down there, it's somewhere around 300 lines long, I think. Yep, 316. So let's take a look at it. It's really pretty straightforward. I'm using a Python package called rtfng for RTF Next Generation. If you search around in Google for Python libraries for writing RTF, you'll find PyRTF, which was abandoned as a project a number of years ago, and then you'll find rtfng that was picked up by a group and then abandoned about 4 years ago. rtfng has worked perfectly for me. It does tables, it does everything that you saw in the Biosketch, font control, line control, seems to be complete. And I did not modify it in order to use it in the Biosketch generator, and it is available from GitHub for download. It's also available through Easy Install for. Come to think of it, it wasn't an easy install. You had to kind of get the folders and download them and install them when they're supposed to be in Python. Okay, so yeah, this was written over the Christmas break. And I still have to add honors and service. That's no big deal. NIH would like the month of the degree. That's kind of silly, but that's what they like. You see it says month and year up there. Most people don't put the month and year on there. After all, most people graduated in June, but you know, I don't know why the NIH asks for such silly things, but and many faculty don't do it. So we'll decide whether we want to do that or not. Also, they also ask for the location of the institution, which again, a lot of people leave off. We sort of know where universities are. It doesn't really make a difference. And so a lot of faculty leave that off. In VIVO, if you had the institution in there as an org, then you would have to go to the geographic location of the org and dereference that. And then you'd have to go grab, hopefully, a city or something and stick it on there. And we certainly could do that. I don't believe in our VIVO that we have about 3,000 universities in our VIVO, and I don't think they have geographic locations, so we would be off to do that if we decided to add the location. So I didn't cheat here and put 2 locations on these 2 universities and then show you that that worked. We're a little short of locations for our institutions. Okay, so let's take a look. So there's a bunch of imports for rtfng, which is no big deal. And then here I use a library of tools that we've written for VIVO called VIVO Tools, and they're also available from my GitHub site. It's one big Python library with 50 or 60 different functions in there that make things a little easier. There's a function called getPerson. There's also a function called getPub and getOrg and get, whatever, getGrant, get whatever. You give a URI of something from VIVO, and then you have little selectors here that allow you to get various amounts of information. You could do a get all, or you could leave it off and just get contact information, or you can start asking for a lot of information about the person. Turns out that the applications need different things, and this all works on SPARQL queries, and so you might want to minimize the number of SPARQL queries, the complexity of them, and so asking for the information that you're actually going to use seems like a good idea for most of these apps. Here's a couple of other examples of biosketches that you could run. Take the comments off, and you'll get the biosketch of Art Edison, who directs our there's Art. Who directs our CSIM project, our Metabolomics Center, and then the other is the biosketch of Dave Nelson, the director of our CTSI, and he has a rather massive collection of pubs and grants. So if you can make a biosketch for him and it doesn't break anything, he probably it probably scales up on the complexity of the person. Then there's a couple of if statements here because VIVO is always, capable of missing data. So you want to make sure that your software doesn't break if VIVO doesn't happen to have a value for something that you thought maybe there was going to be a value, like a person's first name or their last name or something. So if the data is not there, you want to make sure that your program doesn't trip up. Preferred title, this thing here is actually the thing you see right here, position title. So at UF, so at UF, people have an overall working title that's independent of the title that might be held on any particular position. So you might be a faculty member or an assistant professor, or you might be director of the bean factory or whatever you are, but you also have a data property called UF calls it a working title. I guess VIVO calls it a preferred title. And just as an interesting side note, at UF, the working title is self-editable, and whatever is in the university directory will appear directly in VIVO without modification. And so if the person puts down their working title as Master of the Universe, that's exactly what will appear here. Okay, then to make output in RTF using PyRTF or rtfng, you start manipulating frame sets and styling things and creating various edges and pieces of bars and things. But in the end, you're creating a document. The document will have a style sheet. You set some margins. You put in a section. I had to improve the default style sheet a bit. and created these things: title, subtitle, subtitle left, heading 3, header and footer, so that I could get this nice thing here and this nice thing here and that nice thing there. And so all of these little fonted things would appear properly, a bunch of style sheet work using rtfng. And then we start the work of actually putting text on the page. So here, put in the header and footer, make a paragraph, append this using a style, and it goes right there. And then a paragraph into the footer with the footer style. And the top frame means draw a bar on top of it. And put this stuff at the bottom, and that is what you see right there. So you've got something on the left, you've got something, it's actually doing a flush right tab there, and it's doing a center tab, and you see that kind of thing going on right here. And so it all works in a pretty straightforward manner. So this one append statement does this beautiful thing right there. Okay. And we put in the top table. So this thing here is one big old table, and it starts actually up here, and you see it coming along. We start putting in information, and some of it is fixed text, and then some of it starts to be VIVO data. So here comes my first name, here comes my last name, going into one of the cells in one of the tables. So there's going to be a cell, we're going to add some cells, and then we're going to put some paragraphs in those cells, and we're going to put the VIVO data into the paragraphs in the cells. And so we just start filling out the table, and then we put in the degrees. So here come the degrees. So we go get the degrees out of the person object, because we made one call to get person to get all their information, and then we start pulling stuff out of the person data structure to go put the degrees in. I wanted to go back and take a look at the overnote. Yeah, that's coming up. Okay, the personal statement. Here's the personal statement. I really like this example because it's so clean and easy. So to make this from this A personal statement to this VIVO included paragraph, we have a paragraph. We append in A and a tab, personal statement. We put that in the section. Then we make a second paragraph, and we append the text from VIVO, person overview, and we append that in. And that's it. That's all we had to do to get that and this. And it just flowed in beautifully into RTF. So very, very effective way of getting data from VIVO out in this kind of very beautiful RTF looking thing. Positions and honors, same. You get the positions out of the person structure. You loop through them. For each position, you're going to put in you're going to see if it has an end date. If it does, you're going to format it one way. If it doesn't, you put it in the other way. So it either looks like this or it looks like that. Here come the publications. Publications are also very, very simple. You get the publication out of the person thing. You make sure it's an academic article. You decide we're not going to show more than 25 publications. You sort them in reverse order by the publication date, and then you get some properties of the paper. But the real trick here is that there's another call into VIVO tools, string from document, and so you give the data structure. You say string from document. You get out this thing. You get the string that looks like this. And you see it doesn't have the authors on it because I was lazy. I could make an author string and put all the author comma author comma author comma. I do that too. So we'll do that and make a better string from document. And there's the research support. Same idea again. You make a little structure. You build a structure from the grant data that you've already gotten from in the person data structure. You look to see if the end date if you've got one, because you've got to include only the grants that have an end date in the last 4 years. So there's your end dates from end date 4 years from today. So you see that going on here. Well, it says 3 years from today, I guess. And then you start putting them out in reverse order of the end dates. And then when you're done, you write the file. And so there's a renderer. You've been building up this whole doc thing, putting paragraphs into the section of the document. When you're all done, you render the whole thing as RTF and write a note to the log that says you're done. So that's the basic Biosketch Maker. It's pretty straightforward. It's basically got several sections that put the sections of the content into the Biosketch. So it just goes section by section. It does a top part, it does a personal statement, does the positions, does the papers, does the grants. All coming from the person structure that we'd actually written previously for some other things. So this is kind of a nice demo that get person thing was useful, because we didn't do anything to the software here to make this to get more information that we needed. So we just do a single call into the VIVO tools, get person, get a structure back, and start rendering that structure. So that's the basic concept. All right. Well, so with that, maybe we could take questions or decisions. Or what does it do? Where are we going?
That was very cool. I have a couple of questions, but I'm going to open it up to the rest of the group. Does anybody else have any questions for Mike?
Mike, this is John. How is the performance doing? I know you've got some very large profiles. I gather this is much faster than the XML, the queries and XML conversions that were done with the Pittsburgh library.
Yeah, this takes about 2 minutes to do mine, which is very large, but that's way too slow to do it in real time, from a web browser. So people just aren't going to wait. If I had a thermometer, they might wait 2 minutes, but we still think that caching or emailing or some other approach.
Like you could just launch it and come up with a message saying, your CV will be emailed to you.
That's exactly what we're thinking. That's one of the ways we can do it. Right.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So,
Mike,
have you?
Go ahead. So we got.
Go ahead, Ted.
You first, Jim. That's fine.
Well, I just wanted to say, naturally the Biosketch stuff is very, very nice. But I'm most impressed by your website on GitHub, the clean layout, the welcoming nature of it. Really, if someone walked in there, they would think that, this is someplace I can find my way around, I can find some useful stuff. And I just think that's really sweet.
Thanks. So you have Chris to thank for the layout, because he just put me on Twitter Bootstrap, and he knows that all I'm going to do is copy a template. So I found some very nice looking things in the Twitter Bootstrap universe, and I guess all I did was not mess it up. So
cool.
Now, Mike,
it also is Twitter Bootstrap is also mobile ready. So that site degrades beautifully on an iPad or an iPhone. So if you bring the site up on an iPhone, everything is rearranged. It has menus. The nav bar collapses into a selectable menu thing. It's really very well done. So yeah, highly recommended for building nice looking websites in 2014.
mobile first.
And Mike, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Just to follow up on that last comment, so Stephen Williams had started a version using the Twitter Bootstrap and put it up on GitHub somewhere of another VIVO type log. I just want to remind people of that. If someone's interested and they want to see another example, or maybe taking a play around with what Stephen had started, that's out there. But the question for you, Mike, is so with VIVO tools, it looks like that's the kind of adapter to the VIVO Sparkle endpoint that this Python script is leveraging greatly. Do you have other places where you're using VIVO tools, and what do you plan to do for version 1.6? Do you see that as something that's going to require a lot of change to VIVO tools?
So all software that I write uses VIVO tools. So everything relies on core functions that are in VIVO tools. There's just stuff that you need all the time, and so those things are always in there. there's exactly one place in Vivo Tools where we call Sparkle. So, if the Sparkle endpoint changes or we want to run the software in staging instead of production, that's very easy to do. Everything runs on Sparkle queries, so as we go to 1.6, every Sparkle query will have to be rewritten. And we've taken a little bit of look at that. I write pretty quickly. Writing Sparkle's not hugely difficult, and I don't have that many. So, if I have 50 Sparkles to rewrite, I'll figure out how to rewrite 50 Sparkles. I think it's manageable from my ignorance of 1.6 so far.
No, thanks for that. Do you have any thoughts, or have you thought at all? Would you plan to support multiple versions of Vivo's ontology in the Vivo Tools, or will Vivo Tools be kind of versioned so when you download a version, that's the version of Vivo ontology it supports?
I don't support anything. This is a posted website you can use at your own risk. So these right. So I'm making my software available, but no, I don't think I'm going to be supporting multiple versions. I think as UF goes to 1.6, I'll go to 1.6. Vivo Tools will go to 1.6. All the things that you see at some Vivo Tools will go to 1.6. That's sort of how I expect it to go, I guess.
No, thanks, Mike.
Mike, I was going to ask about the rich text format library you're using.
Yeah.
And have you sort of run up against any walls with that? This, the Biosketch is a pretty sophisticated layout, and I'm just wondering how flexible you've found that.
Yeah, I worried about that a lot, because the project is abandoned, so, it isn't like I could do anything there. So I took the code and looked at it extensively to see that if I needed to do something to the code, did I feel comfortable doing it myself? And the answer was yes. It's not tens of thousands of lines of code. It's well organized, object oriented, pretty well designed software. It's not documented at all. I don't know that there's 2 lines of comments in the whole thing. But it's fairly self-evident what the thing is doing. I did make, as you saw, my own style sheets, that I didn't have to go into the code to do anything to. I did find one code limitation that I would have preferred that the software be capable of doing something else. And I'll show it right here on the Biosketch. It does have, you see it has this nice capability of combining vertically, and this is all within one table, by the way, so I am able to, I use the standard trick. This is actually a 5-column table, and so here you've got a column and then this thing is actually 2 columns, and then this is the 4th and this is the 5th, and up here this is a 2-column span. So this is sort of a little magical column here in the middle that this one is spanned into and this one is spanned into to get this kind of offset layout. So it's perfectly capable of doing that horizontally, but what it wasn't capable of doing was something similar vertically. And so you see I've got 2 cells here and I've got 1 cell here, but I'm not able to get this text to lay smack in the middle of the vertical distance here in this cell. And so what's actually happening is this is in the second, there's no line here, and this is laying in the lower cell of what appears to be 1 cell, but it's not. It's 2 cells that happen not to have a dividing line between them. And so that was a limitation that I found in the table layout. But other than that, I've been able to font it, position it, get it to be exactly what I wanted it to be, manipulate the tabs perfectly. So you see that there's actually a tab in here, and this is so that the distance from here to here is exactly what the NIH wanted, like with a micrometer. So it's accurate down to 1440 they have a unit in RTF. I forget the name of it. I think it's in here. I think that there's a reference to the unit in here, I think.
Talking about
TWIPs. So RTF coins this term TWIP, and then there's 1,440 TWIPs to the inch, and that's enough to get pretty accurate layout. So,
Right.
so it's good at fine motor control on layout and fonting.
Did you spend more of your time working on the layout than you did on the actual code to get the RDF?
So I would have to say yes, because I was learning rtfng at the same time I was trying to write the Biosketch, which, at least where I come from, that's the only way to learn. So I had a Biosketch to write, and I had a software I thought could do it, and there was a little bit of horsing around to learn the rtfng at the same time as trying to make a Biosketch. I did use, let's go back to the site for a sec. So if we go back to into the site, there's another example here of a pilot award report in RTF, and that if you go to that little repo, you'll see another example of using RTF in Python. This one is maybe even more straightforward. Yeah, just 155 lines. And what this does is makes a report that I have to actually, when you pull it up from here, it doesn't, it renders it as text, right? Yeah, yep. Okay, I got to go out and take a look at my, I'm sure I've got it out here somewhere. CTSI, VIVO CTSI, here we go. Okay, so when you go take a look at this report, the people at the CTSI had asked, hey, can you make a report of all of the grants and publications that the people who have received CTSI pilot awards have gotten since we started the CTSI? And of course, what I needed to know who had gotten a pilot award. So here's, so they provided a CSV file, and I, for demo purposes, I just made it a little smaller. But as the year they got the award, and what RFA they were applying to, and what the name of their pilot award, and who they are, and their UFID, and all of that. And then it's a pretty straightforward idea to go into VIVO and get the pubs and grants of the people who got pilot awards, and limit the report to papers and grants that they got after the award was made, because the whole idea is, did the pilot award lead to papers and grants? So here's the RTF report, and you see a pretty nice looking report. And, there's papers and grants that came from. So you see this is the name of the pilot award: development of a MALDI hybrid linear ion trap time of flight imaging mass spectrometer, of course, by Tim Garrett, who we know very well. And then he gets a grant. He gets a couple of grants, and then he gets writes a bunch of papers. And then our secretaries call him up and go, hey, did any of this come from that MALDI thing? And he says this one, that one, and that one, and we end up with a nice final report. So Peter Sajewski, he does something. It gets a pilot award, goes and gets a bunch of grants, writes a bunch of papers, same thing. So, and this is just the demo reports. This is 11 pages of output. The real report was, I think, 400 pages. And it was a that 100 lines of Python, and it just like runs right through it. So you just get you read the spreadsheet, and you read the spreadsheet and start making the report. It's just not that hard. So that's what we do. So if it's a grant, you put it out this way. If it's a publication, you put it out that way.
So now that you've learned,
if there's yep.
Now that you've learned rtfng, what's next? I mean, it sounds like it's you're going to just get faster at making the style sheets.
Yeah, I can. Yes, I can style up and spit out pretty much any kind of word type report that someone would want. That's I consider that pretty much a solved problem. The Biosketch generator has a lot of good example in it around making tables because of that complex table layout at the top, and then that CTSI report is the more normal, spit out a whole bunch of text, with page breaks and and headers and that kind of thing based on on breaks and sorts that you would normally have in a report. So between the two examples, you've got two pretty good two pretty good things to draw on there. But yeah, no, I'm not looking to make a whole bunch more word reports. I kind of figure that's a solved problem. If they ask me for a report, I can make one. Sometimes people want things in different ways, and so sometimes it needs to come out as a CSV, sometimes it needs to come out as RTF, sometimes it needs to come out as something else.
Well, I was trying to throw you a softball here, so I'm just going to out you on the call. So I know he's working on NIH tables.
Oh, the T32 table thing? Yeah, I'm working on T32 tables. Yeah, I probably mentally blocked that because it's so damn tedious. But yeah, in the NIH world, there's a particular kind of grant called a T32, and to do a T32 requires, and I've got the beginning of a repo. The software's not done yet. I'm still sort of in the collecting phase. So you saw how in the Biosketch I ran a get person to get all the data, and then I just started formatting it. T32s are much more complicated, so you can't just make a single call and get all the data. You have to get various data from various places and assemble it all, and it's just really a bit of a nightmare. But yeah, I'm working on the T32 table thing, and I wanted to pull up the sample table so you can see how hard this is. So this is from the NIH, and it's a document that is the T32 tables. I can't do it from there. It's not that smart. Okay, back over to here. I'll get it. So back over to my Git.
Well, it's something.
Okay, so these are the sample tables from the NIH. And it turns out that these tables are so hard to fill out. There's, I don't know, the NIH sheets, right? They say there's 12 tables, but there's A's and B's, so I think there's like 20 tables or more. But the tables are so complicated that the clerical people actually can't do it by hand. And then the faculty make the clerical people do it by hand, and everybody cries. And it just takes months. And it is actually a rate-limiting step in getting these grants out of the University of Florida. And so when we talk to other universities, they say, yeah, we have 4 full-time people, and all they do is fill out these tables. And then when you ask at the University of Florida, we say, no, we make the faculty fill out the tables with the faculty member's assistant, who's never done it before. And that's why we have 12 of these grants, and UC San Francisco has 150 of these grants. So being able to prepare these tables is a huge deal to get training grants from the NIH. This is an example of one of the tables, and you see the departments that are going to participate, the number of faculty members they have, the number of faculty members participating in this application, which would come from a CSV file, then the number of pre-docs that are in the department and are supported by any training grant, then pre-docs that are supported by a training grant, and then have pre-docs that have one of 3 characteristics. They're eligible to participate in a particular program, they are a participating minority, or they have a disability. And so, again, more cheating. This looks like a row and column format, but there's actually 5 numbers in that table, in that cell there. And then more and more and more detail. Some of this information has to be in a spreadsheet that the preparers of the proposal would provide, to say these are the faculty that are going to participate in the proposal, these are the postdocs that belong to those faculty, these are the qualifications of those postdocs with whether they have a disability or not. And so we've begun the idea of having a sample proposal CSV, and it basically lays out who's on the proposal and who's a postdoc and what grant they're on, and that kind of thing. And then from there, that's sufficient data with VIVO to fill out the rest of the tables. And so that's table number 1. And then table number 2 is just well, that's if you're doing a renewal. Table number 2 is straightforward to VIVO, right? Here's the faculty, here's their title, here's what program they're in, here's the role in the program, which would come from the spreadsheet, and here's research interest straight from VIVO. And then institutional training grants, most of this comes straight from VIVO. Grant and contract support of the participating faculty members, routine VIVO. Pre-doctoral trainees of the participating faculty members is information about the pre-docs, straight from VIVO once you have the spreadsheet. Postdoctoral trainees, straight from VIVO once you have the spreadsheet. Publications of research completed by the pre-docs, that's VIVO's best thing, no problem. Publications of research by the postdocs, no problem. Publications of research completed by pre-doc trainees, blah, blah, some other criteria, no problem.
I didn't mean to make you do another presentation. I just wanted to point out that we've been telling people here at UF to put their data in VIVO because it'll be reusable. And so
absolutely.
We believe we're getting to a point where the data is actually going to come out and be reusable. So the point of that is to say, instead of filling out one of these table sets in a Word document, go put the data in VIVO and generate it, and then hand edit, the little bit that's left with RTF. And we think that's a better deal, especially if you have to do this year and, in 6 months and 6 months after that, Mike isn't going to earn another degree from Bucknell. That's static. So why keep entering the static data into these documents over and over and over again?
Yeah, no, I think people get it, and even on the T32 thing, when we said it could produce the T32 tables, we meant it could produce the T32 tables. It could produce data into the T32 tables that you will hand edit to finish. Okay, right. And this table, 7A admission and completion records, I mean, VIVO doesn't do that. And, at least our VIVO doesn't do that. So the departments have these records. They know how many people have graduated from their department, how many people applied, and how many people enrolled, how many people graduated. They have that data. So this is data that the staff assistants find pretty easy to put into tables. It's all that detail about the people that's almost impossible. And the data about the people is all interlocking across these tables. So if they decided, take Dr. So-and-so off the grant, that ripples all the way through the tables. And they really struggle with that. So if you're doing it from VIVO, you would be able to rerun the tables with or without various faculty and departments, and the whole table set just gets reproduced. And that's the part that the staff are really looking forward to, because they not only can't make the tables, they really can't remake the tables. So having software to do it is really going to change the game for these guys. And so we've had some very good conversations with our College of Medicine people. They're really looking forward to this. And then I've also had some very, very productive conversations with some new executives at the University of Florida. And they're very, very interested in getting the number of training grants, the number of training grant proposals increased, and we think that with VIVO we're going to be able to increase it by a factor of 3 to 5. So that'll make just a huge difference to the university in terms of the number of pre-docs and postdocs that can be supported by these kinds of grants.
Do we have any? I didn't mean to hog up all the time that's left. We're getting close to the end. Do we have any last questions for Mike? Because I know that Ted wants to show his hackathon page on the wiki. Well, thank you very much, Mike, for coming on and doing this. Just so you guys know, I asked Mike at the last minute. Usually when I don't have a presenter for the next week, he's graciously volunteered to present. So he put this together pretty quickly. Ted, do you want to have me give you the presenter and then have you show our wiki page?
There's a link to it in the Google Doc there. You could just click on it if you like.
Okay. Well, I'm going to make myself the presenter again. Give me just a second. There we go. Make presenter. Show my screen. All right. Can everyone see the Hackathon 2014 wiki page?
Got it.
All right, Ted,
Yes.
you want to go ahead and give them a walkthrough?
Yeah, so the idea here is that we have some, basic information about the hackathon, and then uh, basically an opportunity for people to submit their ideas or say they're interested in working on something before they actually get to the hackathon. So if you have an idea for the hackathon or want to join one of these other sort of mini teams, feel free to add your name or idea there. And also, if you scroll down a little bit, I started um, creating a list of resources that people might want to know about before they come to the hackathon, and also some questions based off of the few that Chris has said that he's received about the hackathon. So feel free to add to any of this, and hopefully we'll be able to have a fair amount of information about what we plan to do that day before we get there.
And just so you know, if you RSVP, you're going to get a T-shirt, and it's going to be pretty awesome. That's all I've got to say. It's a secret. Ted's seen it. Any last questions for about the hackathon or Ted? No. One of the things also I've been live tweeting during the call here, and I'm going to make a concerted effort to practice tweeting during the apps and tools calls, because I plan on having doing live tweet during the hackathon. And so these are the hashtags. I don't know if you guys can see my screen, but for the apps and tools working group, I'm using hashtag pound hack Vivo. And then for the hackathon itself, it's going to be VivoHack14. Then, and of course, at Vivo Collab is the account that Christy uses to tweet for Vivo. And I tweet under the handle at SENRABC, which is C Barnes backwards. So if anybody is interested in following any of those, that'd be exciting. Or any suggestions. It was suggested to me that it might be a good idea for us to do more of that. We always do a lot of really cool Vivo work, but we still, as a community, I think could do a lot more to share what we do. I mean, that's really kind of where I was pushing Mike to go and put up his blog. And so Alex, thanks to Alex, actually, because even a couple of years ago he was saying, hey, you guys should do more blogging, because we would follow that. We'd be interested in seeing what you're doing. So we're going to give it a shot. Well, thank you, everybody, for attending today's call. And I look forward to talking to you all in 2 weeks. The next call is going to be on March 4th, which I believe is the last call before the hackathon. And we will be putting together an agenda for people to get any kind of support that they need for assembling any of those tools that Ted has listed here on the wiki page, and getting in prepared for the hackathon. Ted, do you have any other things to add that I forgot?
No.
Well, again, thanks everybody, and we'll see you on March 4th, or see you online before then. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Ted.
All right.
Bye.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, bye.